Hey, how you doing, folks? My name is Hellbent, and it's been a while since I made a video, so I thought I would drag along my friend Joe Glines to help me demonstrate a tool that I made a couple of months ago. So you want to introduce yourself, Joe?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Joe Glines. I'm on the Automator. I have a YouTube channel. It's anyway. Well, I'll have a link in the description, right, or something. But yeah, we do. We've done several videos together. People probably are aware of both of us.
Yeah. So today we're going to be showcasing a button maker, a button creator, editor tool. Basically, just a way of putting fancier buttons on your GUI. So I don't know if how much you like the plain gray buttons of the default GUI, but sometimes they just don't do it. So I'm gonna get Joe here to work through how to actually create these buttons and use them.
Which is funny because it's actually this is one of the things that and I don't knock you for doing it, but for reaching out to me is because I don't work with GUIs a lot, right? And I tell everybody that when we start doing something, I said I'm not a GUI person, right? So having you have me work through it is really good because if I can do it, then the majority of people can do it, right? And it's really good not to have, if you have another person that's an expert, you end up talking to such a high level and you may miss that, like, people aren't understanding, some fundamental things. But yeah, this is going to be fun.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we'll just pull up I'll leave a link to this forum thread in the description. And this is where you get all the code and the examples, and we're going to work through this. So this thread is broken up into two parts. One, the first part, the main part, is about the button and like being able to add buttons to your GUI. So that's the first part that we're going to go through. If we look at the code, we have which one is this? First steps. Okay, so the first thing we need is either in the script we're working with or in some other file as a library. So we need to take this first part, which is the class to create the buttons, and we need to put this in its own script,
right,
or
so
at the bottom of the script we're working.
Yeah, right. So I have already copied this, and in the folder we're working in here, I believe this is the Gen 3 buttons,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So he's taken this code and put it in a new script, and he's named that script Gen 3 buttons. You can name it anything you want. It's easier if you just stick with the naming convention that's there, though.
Right. So that's that one.
So the class itself is broken up into two parts.
Well, hold on. The other one I want to interrupt you is this is the link to the GDI library, right? Which you also have to make sure you have on your computer.
Yes, you need the GDI. Yeah, you need the GDI plus library, and you need the button class. Once you have those two things, you're set to start coding. Let's go into actually the class itself. We'll come back to it after more, but to begin with, let's go into the code for the class.
Did you want this one or?
Yeah, the code that you just pasted. So, okay, so it's broken, the code here is broken up into two classes. One is a controller class. So it controls, like, if you mouse over the button, if you click on the button, it controls all of that kind of stuff. The second class in this is the graphics. So the plan is over time to add in more and more button styles. So you have the controller class calls up these graphics and creates buttons with those graphics. So right now there's only one graphics class that it can use, and that's what it is. What we can do with these graphic classes, we'll get into a little bit later, is we can separate the two of them out. So we don't need to use the button controller that this has. You can use some other kind of button controller. And we can just use the graphics class to create the images that some other controller controls.
So this is a good, sorry, maybe we should have talked about it a little bit earlier, but especially with AutoHotkey, and you were, I think, somewhat sarcastically making fun of the built-in AutoHotkey, GUIs with their how antiquated they look, right? And it's the one thing, it's the biggest complaint I hear people talk about is when you're creating a GUI, they look so old. And often we'll include creating buttons, but people will draw a button, a static PNG file, and include it, which isn't in itself terrible. However, it becomes very problematic depending on displays and sizes and sharing files and everything, right? In your tool, you're actually using GI to draw the buttons live every time.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
So
and
it's not like you're taking a PNG and stretching it or squishing it.
right, right, and that's once you wrap your mind around that concept of instead of just displaying a picture, you're literally drawing that button over. It sounds more resource intensive, but it really it's so fast. It's not, but it really makes it so much cleaner and easier to deal with because it becomes very problematic with pictures on different displays. So anyway, sorry.
Yeah. And also, like, if you have, like, let's say 50 buttons or whatever that all have basically the same theme, then, you know, you're going to have to hand type each one, do each one of those in whatever drawing software you're doing, right?
Yeah.
And then export it and then file include. And yeah, it's just right. This does it all for you. You don't have to worry about using images. But like, I just wanted to point out that the button it's two things. It's graphics and it's a controller, and the graphics can be separated. Okay, so let's go through actually creating the first button. So if we go back to the thread.
Yeah, it was down a bit, right? Is it?
So let's go through the first couple of example things there, the first couple of boxes, because they have important information about how the button works.
So up here?
Scroll up a little bit. A little bit more.
That's the top.
Okay, down. Okay, the second box. Start at the second box, code box.
So this one?
The second code box. So right there, my first button. So once you have your script, up one box. Yeah. So once this is how, once you had your script where you have included the GDIP library and you've included the class, it's the button class itself. To create a new button, it's all just a matter of typing out that one line. It's like your button, its name that you want to call it, and then a new button, and then that's it.
So because here I have the include the GDIP library, and then I have the include to your button class. You're saying that's all I need?
Yes, I mean there's other setup code that we need to run a script, but yes, that's all you need to create a button.
All right.
So now if we go back, we'll look at the structure of how the button call it works. So when you call up a new button, it's got up to 5 parameters that you can pass. They're called input, all, default, hovered, and pressed. The input is like what is unique about this button. Like when you put it on a window, that window type typically will have a name. So you say, which GUI am I putting this on? If you have 5 GUIs, tell it which GUI you're putting it on. Then it's got like an X position, a Y position, a width for your button, a height for your button, the text you want on it, and the label you want to execute. So those are unique for each and every button. So that's the only thing that you have to type out for each button. Other than that, everything is optional because when you first run the script, it creates a bunch of default values for it. So let's actually look at what that default value is. So let's get the first code example, which is I think the next box down. Nope, one more box down.
So this one?
No, one more. That one. So we need everything except for the includes because you already have those set up. Nope, not that one. Nope, not that one. Not that one. Not that one. I think we're having a little bit of a lag. So go above that image, the first code box above that image. And you need everything except for the 2 includes.
I'm going to borrow it. I'll get rid of them.
Okay.
It's easier.
Yeah. So as long as you've included the right path to your GDIP library, included the right path to the buttons, this should work.
Hey, look at that.
Okay, so the first thing to note is that the first line that we need to, before we start using any buttons, is we need to actually start up the GDIP library. And that's what it does with that GDIP library startup. So this is something you have to include. And then once you have that, then you can start using any of the GDIP library functions. So some people might not be too familiar with that syntax. So can we break out the new button into its objects? Like, can we create objects on separate lines?
Yeah. That,
and there's also like, we can actually take that whole object and assign it to a variable if it makes it more easy for people to work with. Right. So you can take that bracket owner all the way up to the other bracket and then say like my object equals.
so this could have been up here and said this, and then put it back in here. Right. Oops, I got two comments.
Yes, exactly. So if that's more convenient for people, that they're more familiar with reading it. Also, you can like break that my object down into its comma lines. You can also like declare the object and then just add the keys as you go, whichever makes it easier to people understand. But it's just passing it that object without having to declare an object or store a reference to it. Okay, so now if you want it to, let's say if you had a GUI that had you wanted a darker theme. So change before the my object line, change the GUI's color with a GUI 1 color.
Sorry, where are you?
Go right underneath GDIP startup. And then now GUI 1 color. No, GUI comma 1 colon.
I don't work with GUIs.
Yeah, okay. And let's say 22222.
Do I need a space here?
Comma. And then 6 2s.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops.
Okay, so now if you run it, now the background for the buttons all still have that white background. So what we need to do is we need to go into if you look at that forum thread again, it had that object, it said input, all, default, whatever. What we want is that first parameter for all. It's, I think, 2 lines, 2 boxes above, 1 more box. Yeah, right there. So this is the objects that it takes: the input, all, default, hovered, pressed. What we want to do is, if we change one of the values in the all parameter, it'll affect every single state. So these buttons have 3 states. It has what it looks like when you're not interacting with it, what it looks like when you have your mouse over it, and then what it looks like when you press it.
Let me interrupt you just for a second to make sure I'm keeping up with you. This object here is all for this. Is that correct?
For the input. It's for the input.
Oh, it's on the input?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, that's right. I thought you said
the input is the unique thing for that button.
Right, but I thought you said we were doing this on the all. That's what got me confused.
That's what we were working with the background. If you go back to the code now, and if we look, we see that thing that says background. That's in the all parameter, which means that when we run that, it'll affect all the states. So if we because this is the second. Okay. Yeah. So if we change that background color to now the same color that we used as our GUI background, they should match up. So we want this one. The GUI color only doesn't have the alpha value when our colors do have the alpha value. So we just leave it the alpha as FF and then change the last 6 digits.
What?
So the color is broken up into pairs. It's got 4 different pairs. The first 2 are the alpha. The second 2 are the red. The third 2 are the green. The fourth set is the blue. So it's alpha RGB.
And what did you want to set to?
Pardon?
What did you want these set
you
to?
You just want it to be the same color as your background.
Oh, okay.
Right. So now if you run it now, you have the same background. Okay, so now let's modify this button. So let's add in some more of those parameters. So if we add another comma, another object, let's do for the hover state. Let's work with the hover state. So we need 2 commas. So that would put us in the default. Now we need 1 more comma. that puts us in the in the hover, and we're going to change. Let's just change the main color of the button, like the color of the top of the button, and we access that through keys. And the key, do you remember what it was? Button main color 1.
No, but let's do this just because it was a really good handy reference for people. At the very bottom, that's why we were there, right? Of this file, you have you can get it from here, right?
Yes, if you go to the very bottom, there's a prototype, an example of every single key.
Yeah, well, yeah, key value pairs, right? So this is the keys, and then the value you could some value you pick. What was it you were looking for?
We want button main color 1 or button main color 2 or both. Button main color 1 or 2 doesn't matter. It'll show enough on the screen.
I don't even see them though.
It's right at line 691.
Thank you. So actually, I need.
So all the four parameters, the default, the hover, the press, all of them share the same keys. It's how it affects them.
Gotcha. Yeah. And we need different.
Let's go. I don't know. You can do lime green or whatever. That should show up pretty good. 00FF00. All right. So now, when you hover over the button, you should be able to get that color. Now, if you look at that reference you were looking at just a second ago, you can see that there's like tons and tons of key values that you could need. And if you want to go and edit, a button by using the objects like that, it's going to take you forever. It's going to be a nightmare.
Agreed.
So,
yep.
So that's where the editor comes in, which is the next part of this demo. But do you want to try creating a couple of buttons first? See, we have our prototype for that one button.
This one?
The button that you added, where you just changed it to green. Let's try adding another button with that.
Oh, okay. So
basically just duplicate the line and then change what's different. I would put that my object back in it.
Okay. Yeah, that's what was throwing me off. Like, wait a minute here. Now I hit the wrong broken separate things.
It's whatever makes it easier for people. I'm used to writing like this, so this is easy enough for me. Yeah. So you just give it, so that my first button and my first button 2, what they are is the handle to that control. So if you want to interact with the control like you normally would, a normal GUI control, you can access it through that handle. You can just use this variable. The owner is still 1, and then we can use, even though these are separated into key value pairs, we can still use relative positioning. So for example, if we wanted to put that on the margin, we can just say M. If we want the Y, we could say Y plus 30, and it would.
That's in quotes too?
Yeah, yeah. So all the relative positioning that you can use with a normal GUI, if you're used to that kind of stuff, you can still do that kind of stuff.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, because we didn't discuss this before, but you have it built in that if the text is bigger, it shrinks the size of the text where it'll fit. Is that right?
No, that's not. That's something that I have in some new scripts. I haven't implemented it in old scripts.
Okay.
So with this, you have to tell it what your font you want to use.
Yep.
So let's say if you want to do that, let's say if you want to just change the font for that bottom button, you would have to go into those keys and find the right keys to do it. So let's not do that. Let's use the editor instead.
Yep. So now let's go back here. Where on here was the editor?
It's in the forum page, and it's the second picture. The second picture has a spoiler tag below it.
Okay, so it's this one?
Yeah.
So I've already done this, but I would select all, copy it, and then let me go back. You paste it, and then when you paste it, this is you'll see this is the beginning here. Although we did have to, you do have to update the GDIP library reference, right?
Yeah, you have to, and there was one problem with the icon that I don't know if anyone else.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So if we, okay, so when you copy the whole script, the first, after that image of the editor, the first script is the editor's code. So you just put that into its own script and then change the path to the GDIP library at the top of it. Other than that, he had an issue with this line right here. So go ahead and comment that and see if it works again now. So it gives us error. So he just commented out, and it's in a function called set icon, and it doesn't matter. All that does is it's the first time I've added an icon to one of my scripts, and that just puts the icon on. So it's not a big deal if it doesn't have an icon. And when you run it, you get this. So I call it an HV button maker. I call it a button maker, but Joe has, when he was going through it, had a little bit of a that was a little bit confusing, and so how would you describe it?
Well, it's more to the point of you're creating a theme, really, right? Now in it, you'll see actually the default looks like says save to PNG, which I thought we were making buttons and saving them as files, which you have in this tool. But when you change it to this, you copy the code for the theme that you've created, and then you can simply go back and use that class you already have been using, but applying this theme to it, and it makes it so easy to make whatever buttons and have them all look similar, right? So it's amazing. It's just, I was getting confused of, wait a minute, I thought we were making a button, but it's really much more than that.
Yeah, so this editor, all it is it's rather than you going into those objects and typing out those keys, like looking to finding them all, you do it in here and it changes it. You can see what it looks like. It's just so much easier. That's the whole purpose of this. Like, even though this looks like, you might think it looks like a nice design and everything like that, I put no thought into this. I rushed through this. It's like, it even has, like, if you click on the button, sometimes you'll see it flickers a little bit every now and then. So even though this is an afterthought, this thing is an afterthought because I needed to have access to those keys in an easy way. So let's break down it's broken into 4 different tabs, and the tabs are up at the top left corner. It's got all, default, hovered, pressed. When you go through the default, hovered, and pressed, it just shows you an image of what it looks like in that state. And if you go to the all tab, it shows you an example of a functioning button that you can go through all of its states, where if you mouse over it, it changes. If you click on it, it changes. So that button underneath the HB in the center is an actual button that you can interact with. Right? On the how this works is when it updates the design, it first goes to this all tab, gets all that data, and writes it to the every single one of the other objects. So it's got a default, hover, and pressed object. It takes whatever is in here and it overwrites those values. So when you use the all tab, you have to be really, really careful that anything that it's showing right now, if any of the other states have a slightly different value, you need to delete it as soon as you write it. So we went through before on how a good way to start a design. So maybe change the background color to something and then set all those to that color.
Remind me where the background is.
Remember, it's in the button, yeah. So let's say you have an idea that you know what your background for your GUI is going to be. That's the first thing you do, is change the background, because the colors, that the default button doesn't necessarily work with every single color that you will use for your background. Right? So you can either type it in, or you can press that button that says get, and then you can mouse over any color on your screen and press Control and it'll update it. So now to start, the best way, if you really want to design something that's for this, is to start from scratch, which means taking the things in the panel that says button colors and setting them all to that background color. So outer in the bottom right, there's something called a section called button colors. And if you go through all of them and change them to that background color, and update, now you can get this. And we can turn off the glossy effect by double clicking on the glossy effect at the top. And you only have to do that double click on the all page because it's just because of how the structure works. Okay, so now we can delete all those colors that we added.
Well, because if we didn't, that would get written every time, right?
Yeah, so let's actually show why you need to get stop. Let's go to hover and now change the hover for the main, just the main color.
So this one?
Yeah, change it to like any color that's not the background color.
Yeah, so update.
Okay, so now if you go to your first page again.
The all, you mean?
Yeah. And if you hit update again, you're going to overwrite what you just did.
Right. Because there's a value here,
yes.
it goes across everything, right?
Yes. So when you, unless, like for the fonts, for example, if I want the font size to be all the same, then I can type font size on this page and I don't have to worry about deleting it afterwards because I'm going to be using the same font size for every single thing, or I'm going to be using the same font for everything, right? Likewise, for the borders, some of the borders might be the same for all of them, so you can use them all. But let's go through actually designing the button. So the main things that you see are the button colors. So if you go through the outer border and you'll see what, if you add a color to that, you'll see what that does. Right? And then you can keep adding in different elements and see how they combine together.
And back to your previous point too, of can you imagine looking these up each one individually and writing the code, finding it, like, man, that would just be a ton of work.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, now what you would do is if let's say you want to keep the border the same for all of them, now you can keep those there. You don't have to delete those. Now you can go through each one and do the main. Like you can go through default, do its main. So what I'll do, if you go to set a color for default for the main color for default.
I don't understand.
Sorry, go to the default tab.
Oh, sorry.
And then go change the main color. I would okay, now what I would do here is if I mouse over it, usually I would want it to be slightly different, right? So copy the second color, copy that into your clipboard because we're going to go through. Or how about this? Copy those two colors into all and then delete it.
Copy them into all.
And then delete them, yeah.
Oh, and then come back to the default.
No, you delete those first. Delete those first.
Yeah, right. Do I have to delete all of them?
Just the two, because those are the only things that are going to be different.
Okay.
All right, now you go to the default tab. And the default tab, we're going to leave exactly as it is, but now we're going to go to the hover, and usually with the hover, it'll usually make the button a little bit lighter. So what we can do is we can take in main 2, we can take that first 6 and we can change it to, let's say, 8. Just the 6. Change it to 8.
You said the first 6. I thought you meant the first 6 characters, but yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
I saw it after.
So we're working in the most significant digit of the colors. So the second is an 8. Change that 8 to a A. So it'll be AA. So I'm just taking each one of the colors and increasing them up a little bit.
And this will be a 7.
Yeah.
Okay, I get you.
Okay, and then if you update, and now if you go to the pressed, and we do the exact thing in the opposite direction. So it'll be a 4, and then a 6, and then a 3. This is just an easy way of getting.
Yeah. And then we come back to all, and I can click it, right? To see.
Yeah. Yeah.
And here I can see them. These are the different ones, right? So
Yeah.
cool.
And so let's say you're happy with that. What we can do is we can export the theme as an object, or we can save it as a PNG.
So just to remember, so I could hit this and hit go. Now that in that local folder has that's where I'm working from, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a saved buttons.
Oh, I keep forgetting it's in the subfolder. Yeah, okay. So and it's organized by timestamp. Is that what it is? Oh, here they are. Okay. So it outputs the array of these three and then each one individually. So if you wanted to use them in whatever tool, then now you have your buttons, right? But yeah, that's neat and inconvenient, but really this is what it'll blow your mind when you start seeing what we can do with this, right? So I'm going to come back here, hit go to copy that. And I copied it to the clipboard, right?
Yes.
Okay, now I'll come back to tool. Oh, okay. And we can minimize this for now, right?
Yeah.
And here we put it down below. Is that right?
Yeah, you want to put it somewhere out of the way.
Yeah.
Because you don't need to access it. It just needs to be there as information.
Right. And we need the name of this, whatever this is, correct?
Yeah. So this is what it automatically gives it. It names the function HB custom button. Once you get it out of your clipboard, you can name it to whatever you want. So if it's a pattern that you like I have like buttons like dark theme 1, dark theme 6, dark theme, whatever. Okay, so let's say we want to use that theme that we just created on those buttons. So right now, if we run the script, we just have those buttons in their default state, like they're whatever they were. So if we actually want to use the theme, what we need to do is call up one of the methods for the graphics class. So if we go back to the form thread, we should actually see there's 2 lines of code. Well, one of them just returns the object from the function that we just made. So we need to obviously return that. If we go down a little bit more. Okay, so there's the we're not in quite sync.
Yeah, I understand.
It's in the first topic, first page at the bottom. Okay, just before that thing.
So this.
That is the object. That's what we just copied from the thing. But what we need is the code to do it. So right there, those 2 lines there, the theme 1 equals HB custom button. Down where our time sync is off by at least a couple of seconds.
Yeah, the theme.
It's the last code box before the end of this topic.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Where we are. All right.
Just those.
I thought we were closer. Yeah. Okay. So these need to go. That's right. And they go after the GDIP startup. Should I get rid of that GUI color thing? And then this HB custom is what? Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
It's actually being used here. So
because that's the default name that the editor spits out. You can rename the function to be like if the button has if you have a name that you want to call the theme.
Right, but this line 8 here and beginning at 27, the name of the function need to be the same in order for you to leverage it. Yeah. So now look at that. That you created that, used that ugly theme I created.
And now let's change that bottom button to width of, let's say, 300 and height of 80.
Cool.
Right. Now, notice that the background color is off, though. The background color is off, so we need to do something about that. So if we look, usually that's the only key that I'll include. It's got the input and then the all default blah, blah, blah. Usually the only thing that you'll need to include is just the background color, because your current GUI might be different than the GUI you designed the button for. So usually you have your input and then you have just the background color for all. So if you go to the background color key of those two buttons and change them to be the appropriate background color, which is F0, F0, F0. You can get rid of that extra green stuff. You can get rid of the default, that means the hover object, because we don't need that because you designed your own button.
That was this one.
Yeah, if you want it to have that one particular button have a different color, you can.
Right. Okay, and here this needs to be what?
F0, 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 which is the default color of a GUI.
Oops.
And likewise with the first one as well.
Right.
Wrong spot.
Wrong spot.
Wrong spot. That was for the button main color.
Oh.
You can get rid of that. We don't need that part of it anymore because we have our own design now. There we go. Okay, so now the background color should all match up.
Gotcha. Right.
Code works the normal way. You can use a label. I think if you go into the class, the button controller class, it checks to whether or not you're using a function. So you can use a function if you want. You can attach a label to it or a function.
Do you want to look at it, or
yeah, if you go up to the right up near the top of the script, there should be something. What are we looking for? We're looking for when you click on the button, there should be a routine in here somewhere when you click on the button. Display button, type bitmaps, bind button.
on click?
On click, it'll be on click, yeah. So in here, there should be some logic that checks after the mouse get position at the bottom, after line 136. So it's it's after what you have on the screen. It's after line 136. Okay, in here. So in the else, it says if it's a function, then call up that function. And if not, go sub that label.
So, which is awesome, but for us mortals, coming back into here, what you're saying is here's a label, is that right? That
Yes.
And they're both, let's change that to 1 and 2. And now if I create an actual,
Now you can
you had that. I'm sorry. Okay,
yeah,
that was a thing, yeah. But we're going to create one called that. Huh. Did I really type that? Jeez. Cool. That is, but okay, that was if it's a label, but if it was a
no, what you have is a function. Test function is a function. Test function.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So you can do it as a label. So instead of the parentheses, it's a
okay.
colon.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Right, and if you wanted to, let's say, use a function, you can do things like bind. It's unrelated stuff, but you can bind objects to it and variables to your function and everything like that. That's a reason why you might want to use a function over a label. Is you can pass it values and whatever.
Absolutely, right. Yeah.
But for the most part, working with GUIs, it's quite often easier just to use labels. Then you don't have to worry about scope and everything.
Right.
The buttons themselves, what I've found is typically you don't want to go under about 35 pixels with the height because it's got a little bit of a border. And when we had the background color a different color, you could actually see how the button actually looks, like it's how big it actually is. It's got a little bit of a border around it. Right, so if you change that second button, if you go to the second button and change its background color to red, you'll see exactly how much overfill it has. So it'll be FF0000. one more F, or one more 0.
I thought I got it.
No, you didn't. You got one more. You need one more color, one more character. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Studio is, you sure? The Studio, it assists and shows you the color it's going to be.
No, that's only 7 color. That's only 7 digits. You need 8 digits. There you go.
Yeah, but then why isn't it red?
I don't know, but that's.
You must be anyway. When we're about, it's something
Okay.
Studio is doing slightly
But
different.
you can see that border. Every single button, because it's not, they're not scaling. It's the exact same thing. So every single button has that exact same border around it.
Okay.
Right. So
okay, thank you. I get your point. Yeah.
So if you create a button that's got let's say 35 pixels tall, about 10 of those pixels are just for the border. I mean the background, right? So the actual size of the button is slightly smaller than what you say it is. Something just to keep in mind. Okay, let's do quickly one thing, like if people are creating buttons, there's an easy way to create just simple button. The simplest thing to do with the button editor or the button maker or whatever is to start with a fresh copy, so that way all of our colors are back to normal.
You don't like my colors? The other thing I wanted to point out, because this threw me for a second, but if you want to move this, here doesn't work, but anywhere in this part works to grab it and move it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So the easiest thing to do here is just go to hover, actually turn off. I don't like the glossy on everything. Some buttons it looks nice on, some buttons it really looks bad on, but turn off the glossy for all of them. And then go to hover and change the main colors. I would say change the main 2 to be some yellow or red or blue or green.
Like I said, I don't know. Oh, I guess I'm starting to have a clue.
Yeah, and then if you go right, and that's the simplest way to make stylish an impact with a button. So like if you go to like aqua, looks pretty nice. So if you go let's say 00AAFF, right, and then if you go to the full state and look at it through the hover, all the states with it, your mouse over.
Because I changed that font size.
Yeah, so you can change it for all. Change it if you do it in the all tab. It'll, yeah. Likewise, change different fonts. One thing with that glow. Okay, one cool effect for that glowing button or the hover state is if we go to the hover state tab, and then in the text colors on the bottom left, if we go to bottom color 1 and change it to FF.
Sorry, I got my brain froze up there. Do what?
So on the bottom left of the screen of the window, there's an area called text colors. Change those zeros to FF and then change the color to black. So the alpha needs to be FF and then change the colors to 000000.
All of them, or
Yep.
just those?
Now those 2. Yeah. Now if you update, now it'll have a border around the thing. Right. So that kind of, but that's the simplest way of creating just some simple buttons. The gray button works well with dark designs, and we actually created a couple of. I've hopefully over time, me and other people who use this to create buttons, if they feel like sharing, you'll be able to find them on that page. So I actually did 2 button styles yesterday or a couple of days ago, and I posted them. So if you go back to the forum thread, right at the very bottom of it, there should be 3 examples of that we can go through and look at how to use our different styles of buttons. So you go to the white one and then the black one.
Sorry, I was coughing. Go to the what?
If you go up 2 or 3 posts, there should be a white design and a black design.
Okay.
So all we need is, because we've seen, so if in your code, what we did was we took that button from the editor and then we applied that to our session defaults. So we can do the same thing with this object here. So there's a function button style object. If you copy that and replace your old function with that, then that's the new button style you have.
Wait, what am I replacing?
If you go to the function that creates the HB custom button, if you add in the code,
Yeah,
replace this. Either replace it or add a new. You can have as many themes as you want, as long as they have different function names.
so, right. So, and then we're just going to use the baby white theme.
Yeah.
Here, is that right?
It's a little bit off. Oh, in the theme, yeah. Theme 1 : equals.
And actually, that's a really great power to demonstrate. Let me undo that and let me duplicate it so we can comment it out and have the toggle between them. So here's the one way, but oh, you know what? I don't like that one. Here's the other one. And this, I think, really helps you understand that we're not creating images and saving them, and how you could apply this across, all of your images and stuff. That's amazing.
And you can also use, so if you take that theme, if you take that second theme that you have and you put it, let's say, just before the third button, only that third button will have that theme. Everything else will have that first theme you used. So
I'll leave that, move this down to here. But does it matter? That doesn't really matter.
You need you need the theme line and then the set session defaults.
Okay, so this thing but here doesn't really matter.
No, it's just
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so you can have multiple, and if you go back to the forum thread, the last post has just a simple example with like 20 different colors, 20 different themes used. I didn't spend time designing a button, so don't knock the colors and everything that I used. So yeah, so that one right there.
Which one?
The one that right there. I don't know, you're a couple of seconds off. So the button for demo part 1 or part 2 or whatever it said. So that's actually something different. This is the images now.
Oh, okay. So this one?
Image, yes, this one has like 10, 15 different styles applied to it.
Okay. Let's comment out these guys, right?
I think you can go everything after GDIP startup. I think everything after GDIP startup up to the return you can get rid of, I think.
You had an image.
Yeah, you need to change the image. Oh.
Okay, and I have in that folder. Oh, let's go up one.
I actually wonder how far we're off sync. We're at least a couple of seconds off sync.
Yeah. Call to non-existent function. Dark theme. Oh, I don't have the dark theme. Apparently, you put that in your dark.
Yeah, I separated the theme as its own thing, so that way you could just grab, if anyone wanted the theme, they can just grab the theme.
Oh, but isn't this something else?
Dark theme 1. So yeah, that's just you had the white theme. Now this is the dark theme. Now you wanted did you want to do the example with the multicolored one? Doesn't have an example. I didn't post the code for the multicolored one. There was no need for it. It's just creating the theme over and over like we did with the 2 themes on that one GUI.
Yeah, no worries.
The last thing is you have the ability to add images to the buttons if you want. I don't know if anyone ever would want to, but the very last example in the forum thread has an example of how you can take an image and add it to the buttons.
So comment all this out again.
well, you can bring that in and we'll go through. Yeah. I think that should just work. I think if you add it after the GUI show, it should just work.
Oh, okay.
You have to change it. You do have to change the path though. You do have to change the path to the image that it uses.
Let me grab this little funny Xmas. Oops. Should have left the double quotes. So now our go back has, yeah, only on what's that normal, the regular one, because when you go to hover, it disappears. But that's on our main.
Right
There.
now, let's look at how we add that button, or what we're doing exactly.
Okay.
So if we look at that first line that you added, the line that starts with the letter G, equals, what we're doing is we need to get, when you create a new button, the class itself, the controller class, creates its own internal object. You can access it by passing it, calling up HB button class, and then the button and the handle to the button. So that button 7 is actually the handle to that control. So you pass it whatever handle you want to pass it, you pass it that, and then it's got a couple of keys objects after that. It's got bitmaps, and then that's further broken down into default hovered and pressed, and then that's further broken down into a P bitmap and an H bitmap. Anyways, if you work through the example and try to understand what the example does, it'll explain it a lot better than the words will do. It's very simple. It's just explaining it makes it seem much more complicated. You need to get, each button has an image, and you need to get access to that image so you can add another image to it.
How come when I was updating that, I thought maybe these were too small, but that button 8, the submit button.
Look at the last line, 44. Look at line 44.
Oh, okay. Sorry. All right. I didn't realize it was in multiple spots.
So what you did there was you got the graphics. You took the graphics from one button and drew it onto another button, basically. So if you change, they both of those need to be the same. Yeah.
Yeah, but I have to replace it here and everywhere down here.
Yeah, wherever it's calling up that button 7. So
Yeah, okay.
four places, I think.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to, let's put it on the, so right now those are going to the default layer. If you want it on the hover layer, you need to go through in the 4 points and change it to hover. So there's 4 places where it has that line.
Yeah, I understood what you said. I don't know where to do it though. Where is it that?
Okay, on line 36, it's right after the word bitmaps. It's the word default. Yeah, so if you change that to hover.
I saw it highlight down here. Do I have to change that too?
Yeah, there's 4 examples, 4 spots.
So hold on, let me. Is it always going to say bitmaps dot that?
Yes, yes. I didn't see it update. The other ones still have default.
Yeah, I don't know what, maybe. I lost my hotkeys for Studio the other day, and so maybe my replace all isn't actually replacing all. Cool.
So yeah, so like I said, most people, I don't think anyone will ever use that, but it is available as an option. You can add images to the buttons as well. So I think the last thing is about separating out the class so you can use it to create PNGs or with some other kind of control system. So I'd say create a new script and get the class from the, we don't need to go through everything about it. We'll just drag out the class, the graphics class, put it into a script and see how to call it up.
I've created a new script in that folder called Broken Out.
Okay, now go into the button class, and there's two classes in there. The second class is the graphics class.
Oh. So copy this.
Yeah, copy the graphics and put it into
everything. Oops, not that. Then what am I doing with this?
Okay, so you can get rid of the comment stuff. That's not necessary. Yeah, unless you want it, you can keep it there. But so what we're looking for is, if we go now, we need to go back to the other page and see where in the original class, the first in the button HB button class, where it calls up this, and we need to get that line.
Sorry, go to where?
So in the button class, class, up in the controller class, yeah, in there, there's a line that calls to create a new button.
Create this to create a new button object.
No. It'll actually call up. You'll see the line. It'll say, what's the name of the other class? It's button type 1 or something like that. So somewhere in here, it'll have a call to that class's name and then some function. Okay, so there, bitmap, right, get bitmap. So this is it right here. Yes, button H1 bitmap. Yes, that's the line. We need that line.
Just line 41?
Well, actually, just after the colon equals, just after the colon equals.
And where's that going?
Anywhere in a script, what you can do is call that line and it'll return that object that has it has a default key, a hover key, and a pressed key, and or it has all of. So if you go get a copy of where you created a new button from the other script.
Sorry, I don't understand. Get a copy.
Remember where we created a button like my button 1, my button 2, my button 3? Copy one of those lines. Just the new button. Just the new button line. Like my button 1 colon equals a new button.
I just don't know where that is.
See line 25? Copy line 25. Or line 26, or line 27, or line 28. Yeah.
So we don't need that, or we do? We need
no,
both?
Go to the other. Okay, now, where did you put that other? Okay, so what you do is instead of calling new H button, you call GUI 1, GUI, you call, instead of, so you see everything that's inside of the H button and in parentheses, you just get rid of that. It's put everything that's inside of the H button parentheses inside the parentheses for the other thing.
Sorry, I'm not following you. Everything.
So everything from H button, open parentheses, close parentheses, everything in there, everything in between there.
Hold on, hold on. Everything in here. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, everything.
Yeah.
And replace everything from the other function. Like where it says input all default hovered, replace all of that with what you just copied.
Should I cut this?
No, like, okay, see where it says new, see where it says new HB button and then open and close parentheses? and it's got like owner inside. It's got three
Yeah.
objects. Okay, everything between the parentheses needs to go into the in between the parentheses of the other thing.
So it needs to be up here, just in the input or the whole thing?
All the whole thing. Replace everything. Okay, now you can get rid of. Now you can say button 1 colon equals GUI button type 1. Well, you need that whole line, that GUI button type 1 line.
Oh.
Or you put a button 1 colon equals that.
Right. Yeah. Much simpler.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the only difference. Now, instead of it creating a button on your screen, it creates just an object that has the pointer to the bitmap, the handle to the bitmap for all the 3 different states. And you can use those now. You can, let's say, as soon as you call that, you can save it to a PNG. You can say, okay, take this bitmap and save it as a PNG. There's a function. It's one function. You can call it. So you can create your buttons like this, like as if you were going to put them onto a GUI. They're all created at runtime dynamically, and then you can save them as a PNG set rather than going into the editor, designing each button by hand and saving them as PNG sets.
Yeah, I got you. Okay.
Right. Likewise, there's also another class by a user on the forum named Just Me. He has a class that uses the Windows GUI API, so he can actually has a way of reskinning an actual button. So you can, I've never done it, I've never tried it, but I believe it's possible that you could take the H bitmap, because it returns a pointer to a bitmap and an H bitmap. You can take that and use it with his class.
Cool.
Yeah, and all you need to do is just separate out that graphics class and call that function there, that GUI button type 1, create that button, and that gives you your bitmaps.
Which then, yeah, like you said, there's something either there or the GDI library where you could write that as a PNG is what you're saying, right?
Yes, there's a functions like save bitmap to file.
Cool.
And you literally just pass it the pointer to the bitmaps you want to save. I think that's it, unless you have any questions.
No, I mean it's a lot, but it's very cool. Yeah.
How about this? How about we go to your script where you only have just the 2 libraries and just get a button on the screen quick. Just go through the process of just getting a button on the screen quick.
I don't understand what you mean. Get a button on the screen.
You know our test script where we created a bunch of buttons and everything like that.
Yeah.
Go to that, get rid of everything except for the library, and just try to get a button on the screen as quick as you can.
Well, I would just use your. Yeah, I'm not ready for that.
Okay. So what you would want to do is the last piece of code before the editor in the forum thread, the last piece of code before the editor section.
So this.
So just before, yeah, that right there. It's like there's like 6 lines of code except for without the libraries.
Right.
And get rid of everything else, so there's not so much noise.
Oh.
Like that's it. So when you get the script, just run that, get that first button into your script, and then just start building on it from that. Add a new theme to it if you want. Change the name of the button, change its position, etc., etc. But this is the simplest way. Just get that line, that my first button. As long as you have the includes, you just need to run.
Yeah, and this makes it pretty simple to break it down. And I loved how easy it was to be able to tell it to go jump to a function or a label. That's awesome. But yeah, and then be able to use that editor to change the whole theme across everything within that section until you have a new theme applied. Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah. Well, hopefully people find it useful. I know I'm going to be using it quite a bit. I have a lot of projects that I want to reskin, and these give me the opportunity to do it really easily. Like
Yeah.
I was playing around with it when I was creating the demos, and I just created just like a basic. I created a GUI. It had its own buttons on it, just the normal default ones, and then I just went through and replaced the buttons from the GUI with those lines, and it was just like one to one. Just here's a button. It's got its position, its size, its text, whatever. Just replace it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That I can see it's a huge time saver for people that are creating GUIs and want, I'll say, more up to date looking, GUIs.
Yeah.
Because the AutoHotkey stuff, I love that they're built in and they're so fast and reliable and easy to work with, but they do look dated, and it's a bummer, but yeah, it's.
And oddly enough, like Windows 7, I think they look a little bit more stylish on Windows 7 than they do on Windows 8. Windows 8, they really went to like boring and plain. They look horrible.
Yeah. Well, awesome, man. Thank you for walking me through that. That's I can see. But the other thing is, this is where even though you did, I'm sure, a good job of posting the stuff in the forum, having a video to walk through and piece by piece show it, I think will really help people, because it's both simple and complicated. When you break it down, it's like you just did right here. This is very simple, but applying the different themes to different things and knowing which, to save the files is just a bunch of little baby steps here and there.
Yeah. That's why I like this kind of example here, at least, especially to end with. It's just like it's one line. It's not that intimidating. It's when you have a GUI with 50 buttons on it, you're going to be looking at a wall, but you're going to be looking at a wall for if you do 50 buttons on a normal GUI anyways.
Yeah, but I really, that's the other thing is, and we ran into this the other day when you were helping with the screen clipping tool, and we wanted buttons that were, to zoom out, to draw this and that, and I tried to find icons or buttons that looked similar, like a similar kind of theme, right? Obviously, these aren't pictures of actual like drawings of art, but it's nice that you can. That's how this comes in very handy, right? Where like, well, crap, I need, if you are creating your own images, how in the world, when you have a certain, you want a certain word on your button and you can't find the picture, like that must suck to deal with.
Yeah. Okay, so two things. So this is not DPI scaling enabled. So I don't have the ability to test for DPI scaling. You have 100%, obviously, right?
Right.
Okay, so if let's say you had 100, now the person has to experiment. I don't have access to it. It's just a very simple number. It's a modifier. It's like take this number and multiply it by some other number. If we want to do this, now I believe, I haven't tested it, but I believe the simplest way is when you add these buttons, right before you add the button, use the option, usually I have to restart my computer to do that.
I just changed the wrong one, unfortunately. I saw my other monitor. I'm like, oh, it's changing it there. I didn't realize it was per monitor.
Oh, that's cool that you can change it with it. For me, I have to restart my computer in order to do anything. Weird. Okay, so now if you draw the button, if you click to the right of the button, you should still probably be able to click on that because it's not drawing it.
Nope.
Right? So you can see that the button is bigger than it actually looks because it's not drawing with the DPI scaling. So to fix this, what I think you can do is right before the line my first button, type in GUI minus DPI scaling. There needs to be a comma. There might not need to be a comma, but there should definitely be a space. Okay. And then what you need to do is figure out what your DPI scaling is. So it's like create a variable called var colon equals the variable screen DPI. No, wait. Yeah, screen DPI divided by 96, I think. A screen DPI.
I don't see it listed.
It's still, it should, I'm pretty, let me hear, I'm pretty sure that that's a screen, maybe not. Let me see. I got your, where's my editor? Wow, my computer is running slow. Oh, wow.
Yeah. He must not have it in his for some reason. I'll let him know.
So, okay. So that's correct, right? Okay, so now what you do is
Oh, we didn't use it. Yeah.
you will take your width and height. You'll take your width and height keys and apply that to it. So it'll be var times 100, var times 35. Not the X position though, not those. Just the width and the height.
Can I do it here?
Yeah, you can do it there because we can use expressions in here.
Times var? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So what you have now should be like 1.25. So it should be like 35 times 1.25. But we need to actually turn DPI scaling back on again after the line.
It doesn't like this. Do I need a space in between there? No.
It should. It's minus. It's maybe a space after the comma, but you can't do a space after that. That needs. It's DPI scaling minus DPI scaling. That's the correct.
It doesn't like it.
Try uppercase. Oh, GUI. Try GUI 1. But no, that shouldn't matter. But I always used GUI 1 anyways. But it's DPI scale minus DPI scale. And I can't get. Oh, there we go. Now I can get it. Okay. It's GUI comma 1 colon minus DPI scale. Yeah, minus DPI scale.
Well, scale, not scaling.
No, scale.
There we go.
It's just a built-in variable. Okay, so now you need to turn. So you turn off DPI scaling, then add the button, and then turn DPI scaling back on. So plus DPI scaling after the button.
After here?
Yeah.
But it's GUI.
GUI comma plus DPI scale. Right. So then now any other controls will have that DPI scaling back.
Cool.
Yeah. So that should work. But there's other ways as well. There's other ways of dealing with DPI scale. I'm not the best person to ask because I don't have a way of testing, and that's how I learn things. I test.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Let's turn that off. Very cool. That's amazing. That right there, like, holy cow, that's a nightmare to deal with AutoHotkey.
Yeah. Well, with that screen clipping tool we're working on, like I created the edit control for it, but as soon as I have that, then DPI scaling is no longer a thing. I can just tell it to scale however big I want.
Awesome, man.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
This was a lot of fun. Very cool. Thank you. All right.
People are watching. If you create buttons, be sure to post examples on the forum. Just create that object, post the object. If you post a bunch of them, put them behind a spoiler tag. Maybe include an image or a GIF of your buttons, right? Because there's like 16 octillion different button designs you can create with it.
Yeah, that's this link right here. 88153. So, very cool.
Yeah. All right. I think that's it. Thank you.
All right, man. See you soon. Bye.